With much of the Union now dissolved, with 7 states going into a new nation, you would think that the President of the United States would actually react to this. And unfortunately for James Buchanan, he doesn't. He believes that that the South is going to return to its senses and return to the Union, but it never does. But that doesn't mean that the other people are going to try to react and try to get the South back in. One is going to be a Kentucky senator named John Crittenden, and basically what he is going to do is he's going to propose a compromise, one of which is going to be a constitutional amendment guaranteeing the existence of slavery perpetually, and amongst other things. But the most important thing about this compromise is this constitutional amendment. Well, the thing about this amendment is, if it had passed, if it was ratified, it would have been the 13th Amendment. The ironic part, of course, is going to be that the 13th, this amendment, which never passes, it would be the 13th Amendment, and the real 13th Amendment is the one that actually abolishes slavery. So the fake one was supposed to guarantee slavery. The real one actually abolishes slavery. All of this is going to be is going to set up the backdrop for Lincoln when he finally is inaugurated. Remember, Inauguration Day 1861 is in March. It's not in January like it is today. And so Lincoln, once he becomes President of the United States and he enters the White House for the first time, he's going to start getting reports about this fort in South Carolina known as Fort Sumter. A result of the secession of a state means that federal property is immediately assumed by at least the state authorities, if not the Confederate authorities. And so the state authorities of all of these states are going to take over federal institutions. For example, here in Wichita Falls, we have Shepherd Air Force Base. If Texas secedes from the Union, Shepherd Air Force Base is going to kick out the federal presence, and the state of Texas, at least, is going to take it over. Well, there are 2 forts. By the time you get to Lincoln's inauguration, there are 2 forts that are still in Union hands. One is a fort out in Florida. Nobody worries about that one. But the one that is most important is going to be Fort Sumter, right smack dab in the middle of Charleston, South Carolina. Remember, South Carolina is the first state to secede from the Union. Therefore, it's a big deal. And Jefferson Davis is at a major damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. The Confederacy is desperate to get foreign nations to recognize the independence of the Confederacy. So if Davis allows the continued federal presence within Fort Sumter, it means that he's not controlling all of his territory. And in fact, he's got this one glaring exception in his backyard. This would stop a France or an England from recognizing the Confederacy. Imagine if you're trying to, negotiate a loan, a mortgage for your house, and you don't have all your ducks in a row. They're not going to even talk to you. So the continued federal presence would mean that the Confederacy would never be recognized by France or England, or at least its chances of being recognized would be slim to none. And I think Slim just left town. However, to get rid of the federal presence in Fort Sumter most likely would require firing upon the fort. And guess what? If you fire on the fort, you are going to risk war. And so it's a gamble that Davis is going to have to deal with. Now, Lincoln's going to basically drop a gauntlet on Davis. Lincoln is going to publicly announce that he's going to send unarmed ships filled with supplies to resupply the men inside the fort, just so that they don't starve to death. There's not going to be weapons. There's not going to be extra men. It's just food for the most part. So basically what Davis has done is he's thrown the gauntlet onto the floor and said, Mr. Davis, it's your turn to pick it up. What are you going to do? So this man that only has a 3rd grade education, has outsmarted a West Point graduate, basically, a man who on paper should have easily defeated Abraham Lincoln when it came to being a commander-in-chief. But nonetheless, it's the consequences are too great. Davis has to do something about the fort, and he orders the general down in South Carolina, around Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, Pierre Gustave Toussaint Beauregard, to open fire on the fort. And on April 12th, 1861, firing commences, and it comes up, and it's going to continue on for 33 hours. The ironic thing, of course, is that the opening shots of the American Civil War results in no deaths. Nobody inside the fort dies. It's bloodless, and so the opening shots of the bloodiest war in American history, it starts out without killing anybody. But now war was upon the United States, and now it's time for the United States, i.e. Abraham Lincoln, to react to this.